Kyle, can you do the fast forward version of what
right,
they accused you of? Because I still see a lot of people say, "Hey, wait, Kyle had a legal issue."
Yeah. So there were a bunch of charges at first, and most of them were nonsense. There was a charge that said I had a gun with a like destroyed serial number. That was a gun that had been coated, painted with like a pretty design on it, and two of the serial numbers were kind of hard to read. You literally scratch them and you could read them. But like destroying the serial number on a firearm is like a 10-year federal like mandatory sentence. So like they lumped stuff like that in.
These were guns you bought brand new from a gun store normally and then had professionally painted.
Yeah.
So this wasn't like a wacky thing.
This isn't one of those deals where I like paint a gun like green and red in my backyard. This was a professional job. And they did a bad job at it. And so they lumped stuff like that in with possession of marijuana and just made it so that I really had to do a plea deal and just plead guilty to possession of marijuana with intent to distribute. And the intent to distribute thing, even the judge today was like, so was he selling marijuana? And they're like, no, absolutely not. This is, the prosecution's like, no, he wasn't. No. Was he shipping it? Nope. Was he trading it for favors or influence? Nope, not at all. Never did that.
Was he going to parades and releasing it over the crowd? Like what?
Nope.
But the Joker shit.
But
exactly.
But we're quite sure that women would come to his house, his girlfriend even, and smoke a joint with him occasionally. And so that was distribution. So
the judge was like, so he was like a good host?
That is not what the judge said. No.
So you're saying he was a polite person? I would go so far as to say considerate.
We're going to charge you with 3 counts of being considerate.
Yeah,
which is a felony in Georgia.
Yeah, so like I was glad that like that was part of the hearing today, where he was like he made sure that she explained that, and she was like, yeah, no, he didn't sell it. He's not a drug dealer, but he did share it with women from time to time, and just so everyone out there knows, if you're ever in a situation where there's some marijuana, if you share a joint with someone, you just distributed marijuana. So
that's crazy.
What a great excuse for not giving someone your pot.
You said it, not me.
Nah, dude, sorry.
So I don't need extra charges.
Can you explain how sentencing works? Because I was very surprised to learn that your gun collection, they tried to combine it with marijuana and make it a really worse thing.
Before you do that, I like the idea that like she's basically saying like you tried to ply women with marijuana.
No, that was not what she said. She's literally, it was just that like people would come to my house and they would smoke marijuana.
But you would but the idea is that she was trying to get at the fact that like you having marijuana is part of why girls came over.
My lawyer essentially said that. He was like, first of all, these friends were ladies. I was just like, I'm looking at her and
the judge just gives you a high five.
Yeah, I really, and just a little sidebar here, a little court humor there for you.
Nice.
If anyone finds himself in a similar situation that I was in, and they're in the Atlanta area, hit me up, and I guess I could refer you to an attorney. I really thought that my guy did a good job for me over the last year and a half that this thing's been going on for.
Seems like so long ago. This stuff.
Yeah.
Sometimes it comes up, and I'm like, they're still mad about that.
Yeah, they're still mad about it. Yeah, it's
that's part of the legal system. If you wait long enough, they just go, eh.
Yeah, bygones.
In some situations, they do with statutes of limitation, but this isn't one of those situations at all. That doesn't apply here in any way.
What's the statute of limitations to fake pot charges?
So Kyle, the guns combining with pot use became a weird thing.
So there's like federal sentencing guidelines. We've all probably heard that terminology before. And it's like this sliding scale of like a point system. And it's like, oh, you did a good thing, 2 points off. Oh, you did a bad thing, 1 point on. And the things that took points off for me were, I have no criminal history whatsoever. What was another one?
So wait, it's like first a fucking driver's test?
Kinda. And the more points you get, the more time you can do.
Are there like multipliers?
Yes.
Huh.
On the left, there are numbers that go from like 1 to I don't know 50 or something like that, and just to the right of those are how many months that's recommended that you do in prison. And so I started out at 31,
which is 31 points.
Yeah,
I don't think
How
people
many
recognize
months is
how
that?
outrageous that is. That is a really, really big legal problem.
It's like 35 years in federal prison.
Jesus
Yeah.
Christ.
Well, that's this place.
That's
It's
absolutely
fucking-
the situation. And
Yeah.
what it was in my case is that it didn't make any sense to go to trial and potentially face all that craziness. The level 31 stuff. It made so much more sense to just plead guilty, even though I really disagreed with the distribution charge. That seemed wrong to me. I'm not a legal scholar or anything. And then there were a lot of inconsistencies in the whole case. The way the search warrant was obtained and some stuff like that I won't go into. But it wasn't. I could have won if I taken it to trial, but the risk was absurd.
You could have lost.
And
Yeah,
that
you
was
also
the
could have
situation.
lost.
And
Yeah.
so you were FPSRussia, which meant that you owned a lot of specialty, interesting guns, silencers, and short barrel, all licensed, all completely above board.
Yeah.
But in this context, they became like extra big problems. Can you explain?
Well, at first, that was adding on like 8 points, which is a lot.
For owning legal guns?
Yeah. And that got brought down to adding on 2 points. So again, like points got deducted for things like I'd never had a criminal history and it's like first time offense, and the possession of marijuana under a kilogram or whatever, I under a pound, one or the other was X amount of points, and it all came down to 6 points. From 31 down to 6 points, and the recommended sentence for that, which is what I've been saying kind of all along for like 2 years, is 0 to 6 months of prison. And the last 6 months of any federal sentence, you don't actually spend in prison. You spend it in a halfway house. So yeah, it's kind of like a dormitory that you sleep in at night with some other cool guys, I guess. And you have
with all the people you've been making fun of for years.
Yeah.
I'm sure I'll make good friends there. And you get your days.
Heard
to
what you were
yourself.
saying on the podcast.
But you get your days to yourself, and you're not like locked up. They're just keeping tabs on you for a little while, and there was a maximum of, I think maybe $9,500 they could have fined me, and it was up to 5 years of probation, which is pretty annoying. That much probation. That's a long ass time.
What does that mean?
Does
Like, you
probation
couldn't
include drug testing?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I
Okay.
think so. And so we went in today, and I got there at 9 a.m. to Athens, which is like
Racked
a
up
2-hour
dawn in
drive.
Kyle's
for me.
world. Yeah.
Yeah.
I got up at 5 a.m. I got
That
up
is
at
early,
5
yeah.
a.m.
I probably
And,
wouldn't have slept at all. I would have been so nervous.
I slept pretty well, honestly. Like I went to bed at like 9 p.m.
It was
I
all the
would be-
pot that helped him sleep.
Get out of here! Get out of here! Fuck off!
Not a funny one, Steve. Not a funny one.
No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. Anything of the sort. It was my wholesome nature
There's melatonin.
and my love of Jesus Christ that helped me sleep well.
Hey, cool kids, gather around. Let me tell you about Jesus Christ right now.
I've been taking random drug tests for 2 years now. I'm clean. and so I got up at 5 a.m., got there at 9 a.m., and my lawyer's not there. And I'm like, and see, there's no way to really coordinate with the lawyer, because as a lawyer, he won't answer the phone when he drives. I understand that. He understands it's a crime to do so in this state. And he's got a long drive just like I do. And I'm not going to call him at 6 a.m. And so I can't call him on the phone. I can't take my phone into the courthouse, because I'm a defendant. One of the interesting things
I didn't even know that.
Yeah, you can. One of the interesting things throughout my whole legal process is I've got a very nice suit that I had made, and every time I go into any courthouse, lawyers on the left, and I'm like, no, I'm not a lawyer. Really? What are you doing here? Wait a minute. Are you that? You look familiar.
Is that your
that
hitman
internet
suit?
guy? Yeah.
That's literally what happened at the federal courthouse. Both times, the metal detector guy recognized me, and then we ended up watching videos, my videos with the metal detector guy, having a good little chat. So I get there.
Please tell me he was like taking selfies of you, and he's like, "But not with your phone. You're not allowed to have that."
Yeah. I get there and I go up into the courtroom and I'm there before they even unlock the doors. You know, I'm ready to go here. I don't want to be late. There was an incident a few months back where they didn't notify me that today's my court day, and so I just get a phone call at like 10 a.m. and they're like, "Hey, you're supposed to be in court." And I'm just like, "What? What do you mean? No one told me." And I had to like rush and drive 2 hours, but they were told that I wasn't notified, so it was all good. So the court opens up and I go in there and I'm gonna be the last guy on the docket for the day, so that gives plenty of time for my lawyer to get there, and he does eventually. Although I'm very nervous because court has begun by the time he gets there. I always knew like you know, unless like some sort of like unless something weird happened, 6 months was going to be the worst it was ever going to be, and that was going to be in the halfway house situation. So I'm not all that. Yeah.
But wait a second. Like the idea of having to go last, like having to, I feel like that's more nerve-wracking than getting it out of the way right away. Because like you have to.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
it's
it's worse.
Go
They were
first.
icing the kicker all day. Now,
Yeah.
you got 2 months. Is that right?
Yeah, I got 2 months.
But we don't know 2 months of what.
It's almost it depends. It's 2 months of the halfway house, and the only thing that would change that is if they don't have enough beds at the halfway house. It's this weird scenario where like my lawyer's like, I mean, we could probably just talk to the parole officer and maybe we'll just wait until there is a bed, you know, until you have to go and start serving that 2 months. But we don't really know. Like worst case scenario, I have to go to something that they described as summer camp, which you know that's I don't know.
Sounds fun.
Not really.
But it's Bible summer camp, Taylor.
Oh yeah, it sucks.
That's the you know in that scenario. So yeah, I got 2 years of probation, which is the minimum amount of probation that I could have gotten. You know, he could have given me 5 years of probation. I was pretty thankful for that. The probation was the part I was most concerned about, honestly, like how many years I would have to continue to do these like drug tests and be under like the, you know, sort of have a babysitter to some extent.
You've
My
kind
probation
of-
officer.
Kyle, you've been under probation. Am I right?
Yeah.
You
It's
have.
called
Yeah.
pretrial. It's called pretrial probation. I've been on that for.
And what impact does it have on one's life to be under probation? There's drug
Can't
tests.
Can't leave the state without permission. My parole officer calls me maybe once every 2 months or something like that, and is like, "Hey, I'm gonna stop by, see how you're doing." He stops by and we talk for a little while. He's a big fan of cooking as well, so we usually talk about YouTube.
So he goes to you every time.
Yeah. I've only had to go to them the very, very, very first time. And then I have this like local to me. There's a place that does drug treatment. I had to go through a drug treatment situation.
How many hours is that? Like a 1 day class or
No, that was every week for. What happened was I went and they immediately said you don't need drug treatment, and they said but they did offer me help for PTSD. So I went through this whole like PTSD treatment situation with them, which was very helpful. And then the lady who was doing that treatment with me, I can't remember. There's an acronym for it. It's like EDSMR or something like that. It's a bit like hypnotism, which sounds a little hokey, but it helped. And so she retired. And so I took on a new therapist / counselor, and she was like, "That's a crime." She was like, "You go to jail for pot?" And I'm like, "I don't think you're supposed to be saying this stuff."
The greatest, by the way, the greatest / worst thing about this whole thing is that in 4 years, none of this would have mattered. Like we are so close to the time where it becomes federally legal, or when enough states legalize it or whatever it is, that like you literally would not have had a problem at all.
Yeah, that's definitely around the corner at some point. I would say definitely in the next 8 or 10 years or something like that. We'll see who wins the next election. That's absolutely pivotal. Who wins the next election about how fast it happens, because I think Sanders would do it rather quickly. But yeah, just to
by the way, Glebe is a total stoner, just so people know.
Okay. So don't throw your vote away, people. Bernie Bros, get after it. And so yeah, 2 months of this halfway house situation. Don't know when I'll have to check in. They'll call me in a month, 2 months, maybe more even, and let me know. Some menial fine, wasn't that much. Like back when it was like a level 31 fence, it was like $1 million fine. It was ridiculous.
So, I didn't know what a halfway house was, so I looked it up on Wikipedia. It seems to involve a big therapy component. Do you know more than I do?
Like, I think if you're there for a long time, then it does. But I think with this federal halfway house situation, it's been described to me as a dormitory that I check into in the evenings. I sleep there, and then I leave the next day. Like